Right, welcome to the channel folks, Mr. H here for a bit of a different kind of video. I thought what I would do is sit down and read this editorial and discuss my thoughts on it. You read from the title, essentially we've got a new Hellraiser reboot. It's going to be a remake, a reimagining. It's confirmed it's going to be a theatrical release. Again, that's 100% confirmed. It will be written by David S. Goyer. Probably not so good. And then it will be released through Spyglass Media Group, formerly Spyglass Entertainment. So it's their first release as Spyglass Media Group. Because a lot of people were confused. I myself was confused about that when we had the actual press release. Now, in the world that we live in today, and I'm not going to get too into the kind of SJW culture and kind of pandering to females or identities and minorities and all of this nonsense, right? That's not what I'm going to get into here because I don't feel it's really relevant. But there is an argument to be had for making the next Pinhead female. And without going into the article just yet, I'll give you my thoughts and then we'll kind of discuss it with the article and kind of go from there. But if you want to check out the article, it's at dreadcentral.com. You can also follow the writer of the article, Josh Milliken, over on Twitter. He's a good guy. Tell him I sent you. Or if you ever comment on any of the Dread Central stuff, tell them that I sent you. Now, there's an argument to be had for making the next Pinhead female. What's the argument? Well, there's a few. The first one is obviously a lot of people's arguments for, no Pinhead is always no Doug Bradley, no Pinhead. Or, without Doug Bradley, there's no Pinhead. And all of this stuff. I get that as an argument. I really, really do. But there's also, there's a limit to what you can do with prosthetic makeup. Now, I've interviewed one of the main VFX guys, one of the prosthetic makeup guys who has worked on Doug Bradley personally. His name's J Tunnicliffe. He was the writer for a few of the Hellraiser movies and he directed the latest one. Whatever you think of his directing style and his writing style, he has been the prosthetic makeup guy for Doug Bradley. And he himself states that there is not really any way to put it on anymore because, and again, I mean this with no disrespect, it's just a fact. Doug Bradley is getting old and he's out of shape, as you would be as you get old, and he's very jowly. So his any pictures you'll see of him. What the hell is this thing doing? Any pictures you'll see of him, he's very cheeky, right, and jowly down here. So it becomes very difficult. And if a man that has worked on Doug Bradley's face already, numerous times for hours on end, already indicates that it's pretty much not possible to do, you kind of have to believe him. And also several other makeup people that, I know personally have indicated that it would just be too difficult to do to make him look fresh and young. So there's an argument for that. Basically, Doug Bradley is getting too old. Now, the second argument is that Pinhead, or the Hell Priest, is actually just a title. So it's just something that you get given in hell as Leviathan's favourite. It's implied throughout very extended media that is a thing. There's been other Pinheads in the past. The comics, which were, Clive Barker worked on personally, had that as well. So there's that argument. And then there's the last argument, or I think one of the last arguments, is that there's a precedent for it as well. So there's been a female Pinhead in the books, in the comic books, and that female Pinhead was Kirsty Cotton. Now, it's not to everyone's taste, that part of the comic, but also just reiterating it back to, well, my last point, I guess, because there's another argument which I just forgot, and it's probably the best argument there is that the source material for Hellraiser, the Hellbound Heart, actually had the lead Cenobite be a very ambiguous gender. In fact, it's implied that it is a female. So there's a few reasons for why Pinhead should be female in this reboot. Now, I think personally, with a fresh take completely. Unfortunately, this studio is damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. Because if you don't get Doug Bradley back as Pinhead, and you get a new guy as Pinhead, people are going to complain, right? That's just a fact. If you don't get any guy to be Pinhead and you get a woman to be Pinhead, people are going to be they're going to complain again. Again, it's just a fact. It's going to happen. So, unfortunately, these people are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Because if they do, what is this page doing? God damn, Dread Central, sort your website out. I can't promote you if your website constantly reloads. Weird. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Because if they do get Doug Bradley back, he's going to look like shit. And no studio is going to pay for CGI to de-age him. It is not going to happen because that costs millions. That will be the budget this movie has. So they're just not going to do that. So they are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. But if you're doing a remake and a reimagining, I say go for it. Go for a female Pinhead. Because even if they create a different lead Cenobite of any sort, people will complain about it. But what you got to remember is the people that are complaining about this are not the audience anyway. Because, you know, these people haven't even watched the new Hellraiser. They don't care. If Doug Bradley's not in it, they don't care. And it'll be these people that will be the ones complaining about it. So I say, just go for it. Just absolutely go for it. But let's see what Dread Central have to say. You've heard my argument. Let's see if they have any other kind of pointers. The biggest horror news yesterday, this is 2 days old? 3 days old now, was the announcement that David S. Goyer is penning a new Hellraiser reboot. While the director, cast, and target release date have yet to be announced, it's never too soon for uber fans of the franchise launched by Clive Barker to begin theorizing about what's coming down the pike, or I presume the pipe. Yeah, on the topic of David S. Goyer, bit of an issue with that, I think, personally. He has not really done anything that good. Yeah. Interesting choice to write and pen. Good ideas, man. Needs to be refined. So hopefully he just writes it and then it gets reshaped by someone else. But bit of an issue. I touted him pretty highly on Dark City, but in retrospect, Proyas did a lot of rework on that script and directed it his own way as well. So I don't think David S. Goyer is the right fit, but never mind. We shall see. Hopefully he'll kind of channel his inner Dark City. I'd like to take this opportunity to make what may seem like a bold assertion. The new Pinhead, Hellpriest, should definitely be female. Why? Because everyone loves a gender swap, and it's a great gimmick for breathing new life into an old franchise. Not. Good sense of humour. But seriously, in this case, it would be totally appropriate, and I'll tell you why. So this is some of the artwork. I think this is actually a photo. There's been a lot of cosplayers that have dressed up as the female Pinhead, and I gotta say, goddamn, you do a good job. But this is... I don't think he has any screen grabs. Never mind. Google it. Kirsty Cotton as Pinhead. You'll see. It's actually quite a good look, and I think it would come across really, really quite cool on film. But anyway, Josh Milliken states, in the source material, Barker's novella The Hellbound Heart, all of the Cenobites were extremely androgynous. Yep, absolute fact. Again, if you're just a fan of the first film, you need to go back and read the book, because they're androgynous. Pinhead is described as having a girlish voice, and each of the nails on his skull are topped with glistening jewels. This is an excerpt from the book. Okay, its voice, unlike that of its companion, was light and breathy, the voice of an excited girl. Every inch of its head had been tattooed with an intricate grid, and at every intersection of horizontal and vertical axes, a jeweled pin driven through to the bone. Its tongue was similarly decorated. There you go. You have a bit of my Hellraiser voice for you there. What's more, people always say that's not my normal voice. It is actually. You just have to lower it down a few decibels. What's more, Pinhead was not the leader of the Order of the Gash. Again, absolutely right. Really good points. It was indeed, most likely, a female Cenobite who sat atop a macabre throne, or macabre. I never know how to say that word. She was the most terrifying of the bunch, and she called the shots. Frank had difficulty guessing the speaker's gender with any certainty. Its clothes, some of which were sewn to and through its skin, hid its private parts. and there was nothing in the dregs of its voice or in its willfully disfigured features that offered the least clue. When it spoke, the hooks that transfixed the flaps of its eyes and were wed by an intricate system of chains passed through flesh and bone alike. To similar hooks through the lower lip were teased by the motion, exposing the glistening meat beneath. So, there's a lot of women in the Hellbound heart, or at least androgynous, gender fluid, whatever. It's not strictly speaking men. And it's really important to note that when we start to explore the possibility of a female Pinhead. You know, Pinhead as a figure in Hell is just that. It's just a figure. As per Clive Barker. Again, comics, he worked on them. He advised on them. They're his. So, Pinhead as an entity is not Elliot Spencer. Pinhead as an entity is actually just view it like a uniform, you know? Like it's something you get when you reach the upper echelon in Hell. I don't mind the idea of a female Pinhead, but I also completely see that if they were to do it, they would be damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So, unfortunately, this movie is absolutely stacked against itself. There is no way this movie is going to come out completely on top. No. There will always be people bitching and moaning about it. I am looking forward to it, though, just purely because I never thought I'd live to see the day that a Hellraiser movie had a theatrical release again. There's still time for this to fall through, absolutely. But I hope it goes through, because I would love to sit there in the theatre and watch this movie. And maybe I'll do a meetup as well. Maybe we can do an organised meetup from subscribers on the channel. As you know, those that have been on my channel for any time know that I'm somewhat of a Hellraiser geek. So it would be great to kind of celebrate that together. But anyway, guys, I thought I'd bring you this video. A bit of a weird one. Obviously, I'm just sat here talking to you, running through an article, just giving you my thoughts. But what do you think? Female Pinhead. Good arguments for or against? And are you of the opinion that they are literally just damned if they do and damned if they don't? Because that's what I think. I just don't think they're going to succeed with this, unfortunately. And I want them to, obviously. But I just think it's just the unfortunate nature of it all. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. As always, if you're new here, please do hit subscribe. And if you liked this video, then please do give it a thumbs up and also share it. That really helps the channel out. Sharing videos is probably the #1 way to actually support the channel. So anyway, guys, thanks so much. As always, I've been Mr. H. Take care.